I had to pen down in the air, and I've noticed that when I lowered the other hand, someone was going to lose it all. The prosecutor was in front of me, leaning over the table, voice low, urgent. Last chance to him. Sign up now. My phone vibrated at the same time. I don't want to look back to know who it was, but I looked at it. Caleb, if you're doing all of this, I will never forgive you. My heart froze, because I knew what that role means. It was not just a European arrest warrant. It was a statement. If I said the parent of the woman I loved would be in handcuffs in the public eye, if I don't sign in, I would be a part of something so dirty that he would never again be able to sleep in peace. The prosecutor tapped with his finger on the table. You decide. I felt the sweat drip down his back, not out of fear of losing their job, but to understand it. At that very second, that's no choice there. Make me whole. The phone vibrated again. The other message. Please. He's my father. I closed my eyes. Because the inside of that envelope under my hand, and I had the evidence, is sufficient to destroy an entire family. And it's also something that, if it came to the surface, you could be destroying the city to the foundation. And in that moment I realized the one thing that no one prepares you for life. When the truth appears, it is not a question of if you're ready to go. It only requires a sacrifice. And I was the only one who could decide who was to be sacrificed. Eagle Creek, it seemed like peace and quiet. Those cities, which can be misleading. The whole world knows your name. And I smiled at the market and leave the car key in the glove compartment, as if the world was a safe place. At first glance, it seemed to be at peace. But let me ask you something. How many of the cities, the calm, do you know that you are not hiding anything? Why Eagle Creek? There were two things in excess: too much snow and the secrets of others. I got there a young man. They believe in anything. In the law and the people to do the right thing, even when no one else was talking to each other. I was born of him. I turned around. Day in and day out. Mistake after mistake. To build respect. On the basis of the sweat, the pain, and the decision that they didn't want to take it. And it is here that the lives of the first catch. And watch this. When you tap the symbol, you are no longer a human being. People won't see any more of your questions answered. Don't see your fear. Don't see your weaknesses. When I was out in the street, and I heard, "The Sheriff Mercer, thank you for all you have done for my nephew. Caleb, you're the only reliable man in here. You're never going to be corrupted." I smiled. Always a smile. But on the inside, a part of me, I thought of something that I've never said it out loud. You don't have any idea of how much a human being can be folded up when I find out where it is weak. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt the weight of expectations that are not your own, but that will wipe out the same way? I thought that nothing was going to break me. To know about the family. Nothing. And I mean nothing. I doubled them. The patriarch was Grant's family, the owner of half of the lands in and around the city. A man in all the world. Respect. And a lot of people thought, without even admit it. The rich, the influential, and keep smiling in your photos for a local newspaper. The type of man who is paid to the reform of the school on a Sunday and decides to win the contract from the city government on Monday. Grant, they didn't need to raise his voice. It just had to be there. And then I had a daughter with him. She left. And everything changes, because she did not seem to be a part of that system. She had a way of looking at it, seemed to be going through the people, as if you're always searching for something that no one else could see. When she was talking to me in the noise of the city and disappeared. Literally. It was as if the Eagle Creek shut down for a few minutes. Have you ever met someone like this? For someone who is in the world to stay silent when you enter the room. I would always say to the channel, and you have probably heard it before, that there is love, which comes as a big hug and slowly, more comfortable. Mine did not come that way. For it came as a fire. Fast, hot, out of control. For those who do you know that you can burn it, but then you get closer. And the worst part, I thought that I had control over, but I don't know. No one knew about it, nor does she. Love to her was to go into a maze built in for the other person. A maze in which each step seemed to pick up, but it had already been planned. And at the end of the maze, the award wasn't that of happiness. It was to survive. And says to me, if you were in my shoes, with the whole town watching me like a hero, and it's the beating heart of someone who could destroy you without trying to. Why do you protect her in the first place? Because that's the question. That still haunts me. I tried to resist it. For real. I repeated this in my head as a warning not to mix things up. You're the sheriff. Because I knew it so deep down, I've always heard that a few lines that, when crossed, will never go back to the place. Only that she was not only the daughter of the most powerful man in the city, and perhaps that was my biggest mistake. I had to stop seeing it as a risk, even before we admitted that it was. She was a human being. This, for real. She would laugh of my own foibles, gave my stiff. It was a joke when I was taking it all too seriously. And then, without realizing it, she took it back to life when I began to turn in all work. The only function. It is only the position. So let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who makes you forget who you are? You have to be, and it reminds you of who you want to be. We began a low profile, because in a small town, it all resonates. Breakfast at the Bluebird Diner at the same time. Long walks through the old road, the one that no one else uses it. The conversations that started with and ended with a deep rest. The conversations that seemed to cure the wound which I didn't even know they were there. And that's dangerous. Because of that, when something starts to heal, you don't understand. Are you down? Until, that is, at the end of the day, with the sun nearly gone behind the mountains, and she stopped to talk to in the middle of a sentence. Your face has changed. The look was far away. And then she said something that doesn't fit with the tone of light which we had there. My father is not who the world thinks. I laughed. A laugh is automatic. Season. In my mind, that was an exaggeration. The drama of a rich family. All over the world, you have a conflict with your parents, right? But she didn't laugh. And when someone doesn't laugh at something that was supposed to be a joke, is it because of what it weighs? She took a deep breath and continued in a low voice, almost as if he were afraid of your own words. Caleb, I grew up listening to my father tell the truth. It's just a tool, that there is no true good or a bad thing. But the truth is useful, and if you know how to use it, you can master anything else. I felt a chill going up the spine, literally, because in that moment, I heard only the voice of her. I hear the echo of everything that I had ever seen. Out in the street, behind the scenes on the eyes to leak when in the name of the family, when he was cited in the literature. And he was right there I told the very first lie to me. A lie is comfortable for you. The ones that seem to be mature, rational, but it will only serve to push the issue forward. It's all right. I can't separate things out. You might have said something like that to yourself. I do. It's not going to affect me. I'll stop whenever you want. But let me tell you something I learned way more painful as possible. Love and duty are two of the rails parallel. They do not run side by side without touching. They approach slowly. They cross each other. And when you meet, there is no obstacle, the only impact. And at the end of the day, as I was saying to myself that everything was under control, the bump had started. I just haven't yet heard the noise. It all started with a complaint, an anonymous call, late at night. This type of connection is that it comes to be in the wrong. The speech came a distorted, muffled, as if the person he was talking to behind your back in a cloth, or for fear of being heard. The sheriff, do you have evidence for and against the Grant family? The things of old, things that you planted. Before I could ask any questions, the connection is dropped. The line will change. I've got a few seconds on the phone to your ear, listening to something. Because who cares, just don't want to talk. Want to plant a seed, and then it disappears. In the beginning, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe you would do the same thing. I thought of a joke. I thought I'd get revenge. I thought I'd envy. Grant's family had enemies, too many to count. When someone is concentrated in power for such a long time, and the hate grows in silence. But let me ask you something. You have to trust in the words. You know, when they start to pile up. On the day following the mailing of the story has reached a different. Accounts, reports, and paperwork to be useless was in a small package. No return address. Without a timestamp. Just my name in handwritten. Letter to a firm. No rush. I felt a squeeze something in your stomach before you even open it. And there was the first piece of the puzzle that they didn't want to write it. a report of the occurrence of 1999, which did not exist in the system, to a digital one. Photos, dented, bent, blurred by time, as if someone had spent the years hiding from the things in the drawers. They are wrong. And a world map. A simple map is printed with a red X marked in the region of the forest. I knew her too well. A place that I have ever had patrolled dozens of times but never be suspicious of anything. At the edge of the map, written in the hand, with no flourish, no explanation, just one sentence. The reality's buried here. I was looking at it for a long time that I didn't know to be measured. Because of the word she buried, it weighs differently when you wear that uniform. It's not a metaphor. It is a warning. Have you ever felt that? That moment when something becomes heavy, just because you have to understand what it really means? I have been in direct profile of a physical office, the one room that no one wants to come in. Dust, boxes, and the old paper smell in the past is unresolved. Rolled my everything, box by box, folder by folder. And as much as I was looking for, and more of a feeling horrible, he grew inside of me. It wasn't that the case had been long forgotten. He had been cut off. Report, no. Dates are skipped. The numbers of the protocol is broken, as if someone else had been there years and years ago with a piece of rubber, by choosing to exactly what we could do there. And in that moment, I had to stop. I took a deep breath, because when someone erases it in the past, it is not because they are ashamed. The shame you try to hide. So that was the other thing. He was scared. The fear that someone like me, the fear that someone like you, the fear of someone who decided to dig into the background too much. And right there, holding on to those tests, I realized this is a really simple and scary. This was not the case, forget it. It was a case of what the city had to agree not to remember it. So the question is, which began to pound in my head, and what I do now is this. If the whole world has chosen to forget it, because someone has decided to remind me of it, because from that moment on, no, it was more about the investigation. It was all about as far as I was willing to go, then opened the door that they didn't want their front door. I haven't spoken with her on the same day, and there it was, for lack of courage. It was, for fear of the same, afraid of the answer she might give me. The fear of hearing a simple "I know," and realize that I'm looking forward to sitting next to someone who had a gap in their own home. Have you ever avoided a conversation? Because I knew that after this, nothing was going to go back to being the same as before. That morning I got in the car without telling anyone else. I drove up to the spot marked on the map. The road seemed longer than usual, as if the weather was holding out only for me to test out. Snow falling on the windshield, the kind of snow that muffles the sound of the world. Silence. The dark forest on either side of the trees. Stopped, watching. And it was then that I felt something strange. The feeling that you came to be where it should not. When I turned off the engine and I came down, I saw something that made my stomach turn on time, with a yellow ribbon and the former stuck to a branch, if it weren't, torn apart at the time, as if it had been marked, this place years ago, and then trust that no one would ever come back here. This was no oversight, that's for sure. I looked around. No, just me in the snow, and there was a silence too. I picked up the shovel in the trunk of the car. I dug out slowly. Not so much. A little. Enough to test it. And then, clank. The shovel hit something hard. Metal. My heart sped up. I dropped the blade and pulled it with both hands, feeling the cold, to cross the gauntlet. The ground gave way, and there was a box of rusty, heavy-duty, lock broken, as if it had been broken up in a hurry, or in the world. I opened it, within just a couple of things. And sometimes, there are two things that say more than just a full body. A USB flash drive with the old one. A sheet of plastic-coated fence, yellow at the time. I have cleaned it with the sleeve of his jacket, and I read it. If you're reading this, the city has chosen to tell a lie. Now it's your turn to choose. I stood still, staring at Prakelas, the words, feeling the weight of them fall slowly over to me. At that moment, something that was clear like never before. Eagle Creek was not the only one in town. It was an agreement to quiet, an agreement made to protect someone else, at any cost. Right now, I want you to stop everything and talk directly with you, looking at herself in the eye. which is the way most straightforward as possible. If you were in my shoes, holding evidence that could destroy the most powerful person in the country, you have to open the box, you know? Or burn it all. I never think of this. Answers in the comments. I really, really want to read it. He writes there, open or burn. And tell me why. I know that a lot of people talk about justice, up until the time that it takes the courage of truth to it. And I'll tell you what I did. I opened it. And in that moment, without even realizing it, I had just declared war on my own in the city. I went back to the police station and put it on the USB flash drive on the old computer in the living room of the evidence. I was all alone, on purpose. The store had a single name, The Confession. I have clicked on, first, Inchiado, then breathing heavily. A man's voice, a low, controlled. I recognized it at the time. It was the voice of the father and of the school and the Grant family. If you've heard of it, and then someone else has failed, or I will have failed. I did what needed to be done. I've always done. The city has existed because I have held on to the horns. The recording is kept, and every sentence seemed to be a blade that is slowly going in no hurry. They think I'm a monster, but the monsters did not build schools. The monsters don't pay for the hospital. I've made a choice, and some have price changes. I pause. My hand was sweating it out at the top of the mouse. I wanted to shut down and pretend like you've never heard of. I want to be ignorant of it, because of ignorance sometimes it feels like peace. But I had already gone too far. I have to play it again. If one day the sheriff of Mercer's find out, it's not going to have the courage to take them, because he loves her. At that moment, the world was too small. Because of the grant, they didn't know. He didn't know me in and out of her. And worst of all, he was using it as a shield. This was not only a criminal offense, it was just a game, and it is a part. The next day, I was called in for a meeting in the town hall. The mayor, the district attorney, and 2 city council members, and he's a guy that I had never seen before. There are approximately deer, smile through the ice. The promoter of the project, August New Price, he looked at me as if I were going to be a problem. The sheriff, the city's heard the rumors. Rumors of what? I asked. He tossed a folder on the table. Inside are copies of the same documents that I had been given. That is, it wasn't just me. It is spread out, and now we have an answer. The mayor tried to sound friendly. Caleb, you're a man of integrity. The city is in need of some stability. Do you understand? I get it. They don't want justice. They wanted that the problem is gone with no spill over on them. The guy in the suit, so if you had, Davis Cover, consultant. I am the communities of crisis, consultant. In a small town, I do feel the scent of something. Someone had hired a cleaner. Miles smiled. Sheriff, are you going to sign the order, or will you be protecting your relationship with him? I felt the blood go up. My relationship has nothing to do with it. He tilted his head, as if she had pity on me. It's all about. And then, in the most natural way in the world, he said, if you hold to Grant's family, of the Lilly family is going to hate you. And if you can't hold it, the city is going to destroy you. There I saw it. The enclosure was closed. And it wasn't just the general council. It was emotional. I walked out of that meeting feeling like I'm walking around in a tank, with people banging on the glass. I have connected the camera to my channel at night. Yes, I did record a lot of things such as personal achievement, such as a record, and I was looking at the lens, not being able to talk about it for a few seconds. Because I didn't know a thing if I told you that you publicly, and I turned into a headline, and it turned into a target. If I am silent, I have turned into an accomplice. It was at this stage that I almost deleted this channel. Seriously. I thought, this is only going to get worse in my life. But then I came to understand what this channel is, in fact. It's not entertaining. It is testimony to that. And I'm telling you about this, because you have people that are living things, and in lower versions or higher. The dilemmas, pressures, blackmail, emotional. And those stories need to be told. So if you're here, with me, at this point, I will ask you one thing, really, from the bottom of the chest if you sign up now. Because here, it all gets more and more dangerous, the more intense it is, and I can promise you that this story is going to turn inside out before it is over. And when you sign up, you're not alone. The increasing number of. You're saying, I want the truth. I want the stories that move me. I want to learn from others. Pain I do not repeat the same hurts. It closed, so come on. Because now, she comes on board. I met her at the door of her house, the house of the Grant. They looked like a castle, on a cold, illuminated by the lights on the hot. It is not warmed up, nothing. She opened the door, and I saw that she was crying. But it wasn't tears of sadness. It was the cry of anger, self-possessed. Caleb, they are so trying to take down my father. I took a deep breath. Lily, it appeared in the evidence. She shook her head desperately. The evidence can be in the ground. You know that. I wanted to tell you. The voice. It's onto the flash drive. I just wanted to say, he's already used you before you realize. But I don't get it, because I've seen her there to her that I loved her, and I don't think that you, me, she, her father was on the floor. If I have to take off from the ground, and she fell down, she held onto my arm tightly. I need you to promise me one thing. I didn't promise you anything without knowing what it is. She looked into my eyes, and her voice came out almost in a whisper, broken down. Help me save him. My chest tightened. And Lily, if only he had done what so say. She cut me off. If you love someone, you protect it. Or do you just love it when it's easy? This question has been a hit. And then she told me a phrase that I never thought I would hear from her. If you hold to my dad, I will never look at you the same way. There is love to be left homeless, turned into a threat. We fought, the first to fight for the truth. I said, I have taken an oath to protect this city. She said, I have taken an oath to protect my family. I said, if he is guilty? She said, and if he is innocent, and you have to destroy it? I felt my voice rising. Lily, is there anything you can't undo it? There are people dead in the past. She froze. Why do I let escape more than I should have? Her eyes got big. That is the kind of thing you know, Caleb. I figured out the error. It's too late. She walked up to it, every word coming out as ice. You're hiding something from me. I'm looking forward to, and I hate to admit it. And right now, I want to ask you something because I know that it breaks a lot of the people. In a relationship, do you think that there is the secret justified, and the secret always becomes a poison? Comment here. The secret ever, or it. And for me, he explained his point. You don't want it, because in my life, at this moment, the secret turned to be the fuel of the tragedy. The next morning I woke up with a strange feeling, as if the air had the density. I arrived at the police station and I found my vice president, Derek Vaughn, white-faced. The sheriff, you have to see this. He took me to the garage. My car was there, but that's not the way I left it. The driver's door had been opened, and that the bank had a box of matches and a note. To dig, or the next thing that is going to burn, it's someone else that you love it. He had not signed. I'm not a person who scares easily, but at that moment, I felt fear, real and raw. Not for me, for her. I ran to turn on for her. She didn't answer. I went to my friend's house fast. When I got there, I saw something that made your heart stop for a second. At the front door, and he had the marks of an attempted break-in. A simple but clear cut. I snapped. She opened it, startled. Are you okay? I said almost without voice. She confirmed it, but when I saw it in her eyes that she was trying to be strong, and then she said something that changed everything. My father says that you are going to use it against him. I got cut off. The Grant family was already shaping up to her mind. He was turning my love into a weapon. I went back to the map, pro-red X on it. Back in the day, with the equipment, engineering expertise, all within the protocol. I was going to do the right thing, the right way, because I still believed that the right way was. And that's where the surprise came, in one of those that makes me want to sit down on the ground. We found it in a second. The end. Too heavy. Inside, there was a body. He had not the gun. I had no money. I had a cassette of the former and a Polaroid photo. A photo showing a group of men to smile at a party. And in the corner, half cut, it was a face that I recognized. The mayor, young one. And in the end, the promoter, Evan Price, protect your family. And in the back, like a shadow, a man who seemed to be the one to Grant's family. On the tape, a voice said, "If this leaks out, then the city falls." In the city. Not just a man. The city as a whole. And then I ask myself, why is this too true? If you discover that the entire town has been built on a lie, you would open it up, or you guard to avoid the chaos. Comments on exposing or to protect is without a trial. I just want to understand you. Because I knew that my dilemma was the greatest of the law versus love. It was the truth versus and survival of the collective. Miles Carter showed up at the police station, without notice to you. No fear. It is an example of my table as if you were the owner of the place. "You're going too far, the sheriff." I saw. "Who are you, really?" He smiled slowly. "A person who solves problems before they turn tragedy." I laughed without humor. "You threaten people?" "I will forewarn mistakes," he said gently. And then he let go of the information that I did were, "You have dug out by the creek. Too close. There are things in there that don't belong in the present." I didn't tell it to anyone, outside of the team. And even then, he didn't know. He went on to say, "The Grant family is the foundation. If it drops, the fall of the whole world. Do you want to be a man that blows up the town?" I told him, with a racing heart, "I want to be a man. You don't sell your soul." Miles tilted his head. "The whole world is for sale. The only change is the price." And before you go, he's left with a stick, the new top of the table. "Watch this. It will save you time for." When he was gone, I looked at the pro stick, as if it were a snake. I should have thrown it out, but I tried it out. On the USB stick to the Miles, it had a video. Camera is blurry. At night. A guy running around in the woods. Shortness of breath, and then the image stabilize, and it shows a person kneeling on the ground, hands on his head. Someone is talking out of the camera. Talk about a once and for all. Who sent it? The man kneeling on the floor raises one's face. He is my vice president, the one I will never forget you. And he said, crying out, "I didn't want to. I was following orders." The camera whips around, and for a second, I can see the face of who you're shooting. It was not the Grant family. He was the promoter of the project, Evan Price. My whole body went cold, because that's what it meant for the prosecution of the man who was to me, pressing to sign the warrant. I was involved in something dirty, and it was no small thing. I rebobine, pause, saw frame by frame. And then I realized one more thing, in the background, and the voice of a third man, far, far away saying, "Just out with it." The voice, it seemed like the mayor's office. "I am looking for a plot, with a system. And now, I was sure of, if I have a mistake, I lost my career. I have missed my life. I was able to talk with her. I needed to be. I'm looking forward to cracking on the inside." I met her in death in the lake, a frozen lake outside the city, where we used to meet to get away from the noise. She was wearing a trench coat, of course, hair up, looking away. I sat down next to her, and I told you the truth. But that's not all. "Lily, you have great people involved in it. The people who you have no idea." She laughed, a sad one. "I think more than what you think." And then she told me something that I didn't expect and here's one of the surprises, the strongest in this story. When I was a kid, and I've heard my dad talking to someone else in the room, I hid in the stairwell, and he said, "If she is to discover," and I miss it. So, no one talks about. I swallowed dry. She went on, "Caleb, I think I've lived a lie his whole life." Her voice shook, but I still love it. I held onto her hand. "I love you too." She looked up at me with a request and dumb. I saved it. "And now I want you to take part in the real what do you think you can love someone else. And once you accept that, she has to pay for what he did." Comments on puts or no and why to fast. Because of that, I had to respond to this, not in so many words, but with such a decision. He arrived on the night of the envelope is brown. In the evening, I started telling you this. The promoter of the project, Evan Price, in my office. The order at the top of the table. And when the phone vibrates with a message from her father, I was looking at the paper. My pen seemed to weigh 100 pounds. Evan wrote, "Signing up for Caleb. The cities keep looking." I told him, "He who planted the evidence?" He narrowed his eyes. You're delusional. I pulled up the video on the USB stick to the Miles and put it on the screen in front of him. On the cover of August's changed, a microsegundo. But that has changed. I have said it below. I don't know. I know I will never forget you. I know the mayor's office. I know what you're trying to play on Grant's left to clear his name. Evan stood up quickly, anger and fear mixed together. You don't know who you're fidgeting. I stood up as well, and for the first time ever, I felt an eerie calm, in the quiet of those who agree that you will miss out on something. And I said, I know exactly. And so I did the one thing more dangerous than a lawman can do to you. I have told you the truth, my deputy, for I will never forget you, and I have given him a chance to save yourself, in exchange for the surrender of the system. Derek cried, small world. And he said, Grant's family. It is not an innocent one, but it's also not the only one to blame. And then came the revelation that I have kept until now, is because she's a game changer. The crime in 1999, he was off. It wasn't just about the money or the power. It was about a person who was threatened to expose to the network, a person who had evidence of corruption, embezzlement, blackmail, and they tried to report it. They are the mother of Asun. Yes, her mother. It's not gone. It's not gone. It was dark. When she was a child and told her a story of Comfy, your mother left him. But it's the truth. And the truth that was buried was that of her mother found out everything and tried to take her daughter to the one place. And because of that, she became a target. Grant, they do not have pulled the trigger. It wasn't that. It wasn't that simple. What he did was much worse and more of a coward. He is enabled. It you bought the silence of. It paid for the machine to crush itself, a wife, and then built a story where he was the victim. And you know why is it so cruel? Because he held her close within a lie by using love as a handcuff. When I went to the home of the Grant family at night, I haven't been with a built-in siren. I was like, man, as someone who carries the weight of the other, he received me in his office with a glass of whiskey, as if I already didn't know. Caleb, I thought that you'd come back here. I put it to the test in the table. You've ruined the life of his daughter. He sighed, as if he were tired. I protected her. No, I said. You are protected, you know. And then he said the phrase, the most terrifying I've ever heard, because she had no emotion, no guilt. The whole world is in this city that you have chosen. I was the first one to admit it. I have attached the Grant family. I alchemy of the father and of the women that I have loved. And before I was about to leave, he bowed his head and said, now to see if she's still loving you. By the time I got to the police station, the school was already in there. Someone had to know. Maybe for the project. Maybe it's the Miles. Maybe your own father. She looked at me, and the world stood still. You did this. I tried to speak. I swear to you that I have tried. Lily, She raised her hands, the tears running down, but the face is strong. You've ruined my life. I swallow the pain as if it were glass. I tried to save you. She shook her head. No, you saved the city. And she left. I was left there alone, to the sound of my own heart. And here's the part of you that no one would expect. I thought it was over, but it didn't. Because the next day the prosecuting attorney, Evan Price, has been pinned it too, thanks to the confession of his, and the evidence is in the video. The mayor resigned. Miles Carter disappeared in the smoke. The city went into chaos. He had to protest. You had people calling me a hero. You had people calling me a traitor. And I lost her. Just weeks later, I received a letter. No return address. I opened it. It was from her. She said it's something simple, short, and it didn't hurt more than any of the charges. I hate what you've done, but I respect who you were when you did it. And I get it. Sometimes love doesn't end with an explosion. It ends with silence. You can learn to be loaded. Right now, I'm going to give you with all the power. Because you've made it this far, you're already part of this story. If you subscribe to the channel right now, because I'll tell you stories that you hold, and you turn, and the next one is even more ridiculous. Share this video with someone who's torn between feeling and duty. You don't know how much that may help someone else to see it. Leave your like if this story made you feel something else than the truth, even in anger. Comment below. What would you have done in my place? You imprison the Grant family. As much as I love the Lily, if you want, he says. Also, the part 2, as you have the details that I didn't tell you today, and I am open to most parts of the game. I'm Caleb. I have to live with the consequences of what I chose, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the law can't give you a title, but it was only to his conscience, to give you rest, and you don't get out of here with that lump in the throat, without having to go to. You have a history of showing up on the screen right now. Just click to watch. It starts to where it ends, when her father disappears, and I find out that in the past, he had not yet finished with me. Click, right now.